Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Bates. I'm president of the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, and we are thrilled to be hosting this event tonight for the state representative for the 51st District Candidates Forum. This is in partnership with Journal News Cox Media and TV Hamilton. We are being taped tonight, and we are also live stream on Facebook, which is why we wanted to make sure your phones were off. If you look to my right, this is not Jennifer Burcham. This is Michael Pittman, who is stepping in for her. She became ill today and called me, and thank you, Michael, for stepping in. We have a format which we'll be following. Everything will be timed. If there is time, we will be taking some questions from the audience. I don't think we're going to have that much time, but we are prepared in case we do. So with that, thank you for joining us. We're thrilled that you could be here. Thank you to all the candidates for showing up tonight. And I'm turning it over to Michael Pittman from the Journal News.
All right, great. Thank you. We are proud at the Journal News to partner with the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce to be able to present this public forum. It's important for those seeking to represent us in whatever public office they are seeking to, they are looking to be elected to, address their constituents through various means, be it stories in the newspaper, be it town halls, debates, or forums like this. It is paramount that voters have access to all the information necessary to make an informed decision. And as a news organization, it's our civic duty to do that. And so we can ensure voter education is accessible through all of our news stories, our voter's guide, which can be found at journal-news.com/voters guide or voter guide, and events like this that we're doing tonight. So we are going to offer each candidate a 3-minute opening statement. We will start with Ms. Carruthers.
Hi. Good evening. First off, I want to thank the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this and the Journal News, and also to TV Hamilton for joining us and putting this live. They're always at every event, and needless to say, I value that. I also enjoy the opportunity to speak with the voters of the 51st District of Hamilton, Fairfield, and Ross Township about why I'm running for state representative. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Hamilton. I'm running because I love the people of this area. I care about our communities. I want to be an effective fighter in Columbus. I've been a conservative Republican all my life, and I've always been devoted to giving back to Butler County through numerous philanthropic endeavors and serving myself on many boards and at Boys and Girls Club of Hamilton. I have a servant's heart, and I hope to take my experience to the legislature. I'm running because I'm tired of the status quo. I'm tired of embarrassing stories about our elected officials, and I'm tired of the Columbus swamp holding back our area. I want my 2 children to be proud of our county and our state. As your state representative, I will fight for you for job growth, local school districts, and our Second Amendment rights. I'm proud to be the only candidate supported by the Ohio Right to Life. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Butler County Republican Party. And together, let's restore dignity to our elected officials in Butler County and fight for conservative values in Columbus.
Les, 3 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber, Journal News, and TV Hamilton, and for everybody that's being here and being involved. Involvement in the election process is key to the republic that we have, a republic that I've been proud to serve as your state representative for the past 5.5 years. I am the conservative candidate as voted by, or as rated by the iVoterGuide.com, the only conservative up here. And it's not just talk, it's action. Everything that I've done reflects on that conservative values. I've voted to lower taxes on all individuals in this district, voted to eliminate taxes on small businesses. I vote to stop the governor from raising taxes on natural gas customers, and with that bill, paid off the unemployment debt, which not only lowered business taxes for the federal unemployment tax, but also prevented it from being hiked as well. I've always stood fast as a strong supporter of life and the Second Amendment. I'm endorsed by Cincinnati Right to Life and Dayton Right to Life. I've always stood for those principles, and I've always stood for the values. And that's something I've always fought for. Look, I'm just a regular person. I graduated from Talawanda. I grew up in Hamilton. I went and served in the Marine Corps afterwards. When I came home, I continued to serve. I volunteered local Little League organizations as an umpire, as a coach, field maintenance. I still do to this day. It's something that my parents, who are sitting in the audience tonight, instilled in me. It's a sense of duty. This community has given me so much, and I fought to give so much back to it. We talk about draining the swamp, and we talk about doing this and doing that. That's something that I've done for the past 5.5 years, and it's something that I will continue to do. My record is standing up against party politics, against political bosses, and doing what's right for the community. When people reach out to me and say, this is what we need, this is what we want, that's what I go with, regardless of what party bosses, party leadership, whether it be local or at the state level, want. I've always served this community, and I will continue to do so. Thank you.
Greg, your 3 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you for the Chamber and the Journal, and for all of you being here and everyone who's watching. Why am I running? I'm running because Wes messed up. He didn't take his job seriously. And I'm not talking about the legal problems that Wes has, and I'm glad that he has said publicly that he's changed his ways. I'm talking about the perception that Columbus has of Wes. And that's documented in the Columbus Monthly, where it did a survey of all legislators, and Wes was voted the laziest and the least effective of all the legislators. Now that, I think, is terrible. You got to work hard to get that label. I announced in January, and Sarah called me up and said that, are you really going to run? And I said, yes, I am. She said, well, you know I'm going to spend over $150,000. And I said, well, okay, you go ahead. And then I thought about it, and I think, this job is too serious not to have good qualifications to be able to serve in this office. And that's why I'm running, because I have the best qualifications of all the candidates. And it started with being prepared. And that's why being here is like deja vu. Yogi Berra said deja vu all over again. As mayor, I had a lot of accomplishments: low-level dam, the Hamiltonian, the bike path. As your state representative, I had the respect of the legislature. I was named chairman of the health committee, passed legislation to help organ donors save our site, and a huge amendment that I passed in order to help the Hamilton School District save $53 million and build the elementary schools. I also, as a county commissioner, streamlined government. We had a conference where we called all the stakeholders together to say, how can we consolidate services? And through that, we consolidated the 911 system, communication centers between Butler County and Hamilton. My whole life has been about service. In my business of 45 years and 81 years at Jolly's, is customer service. In public service, in knowing that I provided good service to the voters of Hamilton and the 51st District and the county. Since leaving office in 2010, I didn't just sit back. I helped founded the Center for Family Solutions, which helps victims of sexual and physical abuse.
Mr. Jolivet, thank you.
Okay.
Susan?
All right, thank you. Thank you, and of course, thanks to everyone who made this possible tonight. I'm Susan Vaughn. I'm a lifelong resident of Butler County, and I'm pleased to have this opportunity to, what I hope will be, bring change to district here in Butler County. I believe that voters elect stewards of our states because you trust that we will face challenges, we will deal with them head on, and we'll make good decisions in regard to those challenges. I know that each of the other candidates here presents some background of what they've done, and I believe times have changed. I think it's time for some new blood as far as politics go. I think I can bring that to this position. I think that as constituents and voters in the community, many of you have great ideas. You want those ideas implemented. I've worked for 33 years at Miami University, and I have not had the time to run for public office. I've given of my time. I've served on committees. I've made a difference in my position as a Director of Ethics and Conflict Resolution at Miami. I've dealt with adversity. I've dealt with very, very difficult situations. I believe that as a steward of this community and as the representative, I will be here to listen to you. Representative is just what it means. I'm not coming with a platform. I'm not going to tell you all the accomplishments I've made within the state. I'm coming as someone like you, and I believe I can make a difference. I have committed myself to this. I'm retiring soon, and I will never retire, but I'm leaving one job and hope to start a new career. And I believe that I have what it takes, a strong work ethic, the commitment, and I have the support of family and friends who also believe that it's time for change. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a nana. I have a lot of family support. I have roots here in this community, and I believe I can make a difference. In my responses tonight, you will hear some of my ideas, and I hope that you will appreciate and understand the background that I bring, which is very unique and different from the other opponents. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Now, just wanted to remind everybody that early voting is open now. Goes up until the day before the May 8th primary. What we have on the ballot is for the Republican ballot. Sarah Carruthers, Wes Rutherford, and Greg Jolivet are all seeking the GOP nomination for the 51st District. Susan Vaughn is unopposed in the Democratic primary, so whoever wins the Republican primary will face Susan in the general election in November. So we are going to rotate questions here. We're going to start with Sarah Carruthers for the first question, and then the second question will go to Wes Rutherford, and so forth and so forth. First, Sarah, what are the two biggest ideas or opportunities facing our region, and what would you do if elected as the state rep for the 51st District to support them?
Well, our biggest opportunity is we can reinvent ourselves economically. I know a lot of people are talking about Spooky Nook right now, and what a great project for Hamilton, and it should be and it will be. But let's talk honestly. It's not a panacea. That's just one project. As a legislator, my focus is going to be on supporting small business development in the 51st District. Studies show that since the early 1980s in the United States, a net total of new job growth has been through small businesses and startups. As a state representative, my focus is to help my hometown of Hamilton and the entire 51st District to reform the tax code and tax structure that promotes entrepreneurship. Lastly, specific opportunity is for us to embrace Film Hamilton. As a legislator, I will support efforts to make Ohio even more competitive with tax credits and affect new projects.
Thank you. Mr. Rutherford, 1 minute.
Thank you. Right now, I agree with Ms. Carruthers that Spooky Nook is going to be an astronomical benefit for the city of Hamilton, and not just city of Hamilton, as the chamber documented with the help of the Journal News, the surrounding area, Fairfield, Liberty, Fairfield Township, Ross, everywhere. The impact is astronomical over in Pennsylvania where the first Spooky Nook is, and it'll be the same here. The other big opportunity we have here in the area is seizing on the jobs that are available. We have Barclay Card, Tyson Krupp Bilstein, and numerous other small businesses that are hiring. They're looking for people to work, and we have the resources here to get those people back to work and allow them to be part of the community again.
Great. Mr. Jolivet.
I think a few years ago, Governor Kasich had a budget deficit, and it was quite substantial. And he's looking to where to cut. And he cut the local government fund. And that hurts the city and the townships. That's money that we should receive. One of my ideas, and my first thing I'm going to do as your state legislator, is to propose a rainy day local fund, local government fund, which will be tapped into when the economy takes a downturn, and it will. It goes in cycles. The other one is to bring back more capital dollars. I agree with Wes and Sarah that Spooky Nook is going to be substantial, and that ripple effect is going to go throughout. And with local money coming back in with capital dollars, the city of Hamilton can prepare all the challenges that they face, and they're good challenges.
Thank you very much. Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, thank you. I think what we all know that in our country, all of our cities go through cycles. And I think we are very, very fortunate right now that we're on an up cycle. There are a lot of things that are happening within our community. Two things that I think we ought to focus on, and that's our assets. Our asset, I think one of the greatest, is the river that runs throughout the 51st District. It's wonderful that Spooky Nook's coming. I'm also excited about the jobs that have been created through the Kettering Health Network and Barclay Card, but I believe there's a lot of development that can happen along our riverfront. If you think about Ross and the opportunities for outdoor recreation, canoeing, activities, you think about down toward the Fairfield area, and of course, right here outside our window, great opportunities. So I would do that as well as continue to attract the businesses like Spooky Nook, Barclay Card, Kettering Health Network. We need to create opportunities for jobs, and these absolutely are doing what we want to do, but we can't stop.
Thank you very much. Now, we're here sponsored by the Chamber as well as the Journal, so business is going to be a pretty big question, a theme of tonight. So we'll start with Mr. Rutherford. Can you identify legislation that is currently impeding business growth and economic development, and what measures should be taken to correct it?
Yes. As I said earlier, last year the General Assembly passed House Bill 390, which was sponsored by me, which prevented a 10% increase in natural gas taxes on citizens in this district. The other part that it did was completely eliminate the state debt for the federal unemployment fund. And because of that debt, businesses were paying up to quadruple the amount of taxes that they should have been paying. Now, we got rid of the debt. We lowered those taxes back down to where they should be. But right now there's a looming uncertainty because until we get some common sense reforms to the unemployment fund, we are always going to face the possibility of another economic downturn, us going into debt, and businesses' taxes going through the roof again. And so I think right now the single biggest thing that I'm hearing is we got to take care of the unemployment fund, make sure that it's going to be solvent for generations to come.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jolivet, 1 minute.
Thank you. As the only candidate who owns a small business, I know what it means to make a payroll, hire people, meet budget. So I can relate to the small businessman who wants to run his business. And the chief impediment that I see is unnecessary and absolutely stupid regulations that bureaucracy has put on small business. So my efforts as your state representative into small business is to make sure that small business have a voice in Columbus. And when there's regulations that should be overturned, I will be fighting for those businesses.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Vaughn, 1 minute.
Yes. So I guess I'm one who always looks at the glass half full. So the question was, what legislation is impeding? I think anytime we see legislation, new legislation, old, there's going to be pros and cons. As a legislator, I believe I need to assess the pros and the cons. Whatever is impeding one business may be helping another. An example I can give, and not necessarily current legislation, but something we talk about a lot, and that's raising the minimum wage. For a small business owner that has a few employees, raising the minimum wage could certainly impact their profit. However, on the other hand, I believe that if we raise the minimum age, we're going to put more money into the economy and other businesses benefit from it. So I think we have to look, again, at the pros and the cons. And I hate to look at legislation as impeding because it wouldn't have been created if we didn't, someone believe that we needed it. And I will take legislation that I believe is supported.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carruthers.
Well, a lot of times, it's not legislation that directly impedes business growth. It's a rather unintended consequence of legislation that hurts our businesses and job growth. State governmental bureaucracy is an impeder in itself. An example, and I didn't know this, ODOT currently, did you know that if you wanted to build an interchange on state highway like 129, it is a 17-step process and could take over a decade to complete? I mean, we need to cut the red tape. We need to streamline that process. Opportunities are missed, momentum is missed. That's one little example of how government gets in the way, and we need a state representative that'll work on that problem, reforming and streamlining state bureaucracy.
Great, thank you very much. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Jolivet here. So what is the biggest challenge facing businesses and residents in the 51st District? 1 minute.
I think that the biggest, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
What is the biggest challenges facing businesses as well as residents within the district?
Okay. I think that when you look at the District of 51 in Hamilton, Fairfield, and Ross, I think it's meeting the challenges that, like the project Spooky Nook is going to present. And I believe that we can meet those challenges, but we have to think outside the box. And I like to propose in Hamilton High Street, when it's 4 o'clock, the underpass is packed. And I think we should begin to, with the state's help, and Greg Wilkins, who is a fantastic engineer, is to look for a second underpass, Dayton Street. And with Beckett Paper Company being torn down, that's the perfect area and land available to provide that second underpass, which would be a relief to High Street and would help the project.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Vaughn?
Yes. So I think one of the biggest challenges for our businesses is identifying qualified job applicants. We have a range of possibilities for hiring in our community now. I also think the competition actually from online businesses. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to create new jobs here, but it is impacting our community. I think the other thing is looking at, and it's kind of threefold, we've got a varied population here. We have a lot of older folks, myself, who've been around for quite some time, and a lot of younger folks, students, that we want to stay in this community. So we look at banking, and I serve on a board, and we're talking about building a new bank, a new branch. If we do that, who will come to that bank? Will we have employees there? Because anymore, the younger generation is now looking at online banking. The older generation, not necessarily. So I think there are challenges with how we run our businesses as well, and we need to support that.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carruthers?
Do you want to restate the question?
Yes.
So everybody...
What is the biggest challenge facing businesses and residents within the district?
Right now, we have a raging opioid epidemic that's destroying lives, tearing apart families, hurting our local businesses. We as a state need to focus on restrictions on opioid prescriptions, treatment for those addicted, and increased penalty, crackdown on those who deal heroin. And why does this matter for businesses, right? Well, because we all know we have local businesses who have jobs available, good paying jobs available, but they can't find workers who are sober enough, therefore qualified enough to fill those jobs. That hurts the business community. It stifles job growth and further erodes the fabric of our community. I'm going to tackle the opioid problem head on. And I know we don't have a silver bullet, but we have to find an answer.
Mr. Rutherford?
Thank you. I have to agree that it's not something just the 51st District is facing, but the whole state is facing, and that is the drug epidemic. This puts a burden on the taxpayers because of the increase of squad runs, of police runs, the ever-increasing cost of Narcan, and quite frankly, with fentanyl and carfentanil coming in, one, 2, 3 doses of Narcan just isn't cutting it anymore. People are getting 10, 15 doses of Narcan. And, you know, I've talked to a lot of the businesses in the community, and they say exactly that. It's getting the qualified people they have the jobs. They're available. It's getting people that are willing to show up and actually work and that can pass a drug test. And that's just not happening right now. The state of Ohio has done several things to try to push to get more funding for treatment services. We just increased penalties on fentanyl and carfentanil dealers. And, you know, I sponsored legislation to crack down on people who sell drugs to pregnant women because babies born addicted to drugs are an ever-increasing cost to the hospitals as well.
Thank you very much. Jobs have been said a few times here in the last couple questions, so we'll start with Mrs. Vaughn. What is your strategy to fill open jobs? What partners need to be involved in that, and how would you measure the outcome? 1 minute.
Thank you. So first of all, I'll say I don't believe as state representative it's my responsibility to fill jobs. I do believe, though, I need to partner. And I need to partner with the Chamber of Commerce, with the workforce development departments of different businesses and companies. I believe that is where we need the work of state legislature. Job training support, absolutely we need that. I can't be here to fill the jobs, but I will do everything I can to support those. And I think job development, like the mill here, I believe this is an excellent opportunity for startups, for the support that they need when you don't necessarily have the funding to do that. I think that partnering with businesses is great. I think we need training, but I also think we need education. So in filling jobs, we have to seek out those in the education world. Miami University, our schools, we need to work very, very hard to fill those jobs.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carruthers?
Look, she's absolutely right. State representatives don't create jobs. Private businesses do. Politicians don't. But what we can do is work with local communities, mayors, economic development folks, the Chamber, Ohio Chamber, to promote better business environment and connect local businesses with the state resources for the job training credits and develop a tax environment that is helpful. I look at this like a dinner table. Our community is the table. My job as state representative would be to make sure that our people have what they need to serve their meal. If you're having, the community cooks the food and is the chef. If you're having soup for that meal, I want to make sure you have a spoon and the bowls you need.
Great, thank you very much. 1 minute.
First and foremost, we have to continue to work with community leaders, community agencies, volunteers, church groups, mental health specialists, addiction specialists, whatever we can and whoever we can to continue to push back against the heroin epidemic. Until we start getting people clean and giving them a sense of purpose, we're going to have a hard time filling these jobs without bringing people in from other parts of the state or other parts of the country. And I want to see people here in Hamilton and Fairfield Ross working first. So we have to work on that. And then once we do that, we have to continue to partner with Butler Tech, with Miami University of Hamilton, with our schools to make sure people are prepared to go into the workforce afterwards. And one of the key things we need to do is something I've been fighting for 5.5 years, and that's get rid of the unnecessary mandates of testing and Common Core in our schools and allow these teachers to teach these kids to be productive members of society, not just be test takers.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jolivet, 1 minute.
Thank you. Ohio means jobs. That's the slogan, and we need to re-energize that. When I was county commissioner, I was on the Workforce Investment Board, which was a collaboration between Butler County, Warren, and Claremont County, where the organization of employers in manufacturing and government came together to look at ways and policies that should be implemented in order to match up the people with the jobs. And we need to re-energize that. Also, I think it is a job of the state representative to help out with local governments to make sure that you're doing everything you can to enhance economic development. And one of those things that I pledged to the city of Hamilton and Mr. Mayor, who's here, is that Ohio Casualty needs some help, and I'm willing to lend my voice and support and the state's help to make that project come back to life.
Great, thank you very much. Now we will move on to the next question here regarding transportation, infrastructure, moving people and goods. What is your vision for the future, and what conversations need to happen immediately to create that vision? We will start with Ms. Carruthers.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we need to streamline the infrastructure to reduce time for projects and lower the overall costs. The more we can get road and bridge infrastructure projects done at a local level, if we cut the red tape, and we need to speed it up because it's critical for job creation. I'd like to create a working roundtable with the local officials of the 51st District, the Butler County Chamber, and our chamber, and the Fairfield Chamber and Ross, and ODOT and Jobs, Ohio Jobs, and get input from the business community to develop a comprehensive plan to do that. I think we need to have a continual meeting and set that up so that our representative knows exactly what's going to happen right away.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. Infrastructure is hurting not just in the area across the state. I commonly joke whenever I'm driving up to Columbus, you got to dodge potholes that are bigger than some 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartments. And it's an issue. And the State House took action last month. We passed a bill that had a provision in there that surplus budgets would go into a local government road improvement fund. And those funds would be available for all communities across the state. It's not going to be hand-picked, hand-selected, so the 3 big C's, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland, get all the money. It's based off of your actual road mileage. And every bit of resources and extra funds that we have, every budget's going to go into that and allow these communities to start working on infrastructure projects. I can also say that I'm very proud of the fact that I successfully lobbied for the final bit of funding for the South Hamilton crossing, which is going to open up traffic and relieve some of the burden and headaches of traveling from the east side of the west side of Hamilton.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Jolivet, 1 minute.
As I mentioned earlier, I think we have an excellent Butler County engineer in Greg Wilkins. We also have a great organization called TID. And I'm very happy that the county commissioners and Greg Wilkins, following up on a suggestion I made as soon as I announced that I was running, and that is to start looking at replacing the Blackstreet Bridge with a new bridge. With Spooky Nook coming on, we need to prepare ourselves for 11,000 new guests coming into Hamilton. And that's why I suggested a bridge at Blackstreet Bridge, and then one south of town to connect Fairfield and Ross. Also, we need to look at help City of Fairfield with the Route 4 corridor from a state perspective. And also 128, because all these thoroughfares are going to be inundated with cars coming to visit us. And we need to make sure that they can get in and out safely and quickly.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Vaughn, 1 minute.
Thank you. I think moving people and goods, we definitely need a vision. Amazon has a vision with drones. I'm not suggesting we use drones to move people, but they may be moving goods soon. I think what we need to do absolutely, and I agree with everyone else, is funding for infrastructure. It's in desperate need in this area, all of our district. But I also think we need to look to other forms. So perhaps light rail at some point. I think we must stay connected in Southwest Ohio to all the surrounding areas and other parts of the state. Butler County Rural Transit Authority just recently received a grant for $2.6 million to build a facility in Oxford. That's going to have the storage of the buses, the repair, and it's going to be built near where they hope to have an Amtrak location. BCRTA has represented us well. There are people now who travel to and from Oxford, and I do it every day, not always on the bus, but I go back and forth. You could get from here in Hamilton to Oxford on the bus and on a train and in Chicago. We have to look outside the box. It's not just what's right in town.
Thank you very much. All right. Now moving on to public safety, we'll start with Mr. Rutherford. Regarding public safety, targeted violent attacks, school shootings, other threats, what laws are already in place that need to be enforced, and what additional funding or legislation needs to be in place to address this issue?
Thank you. And first and foremost, last month, the State House it sent to the governor's office, which he signed into law, bill making the sales tax holiday for back-to-school shopping permanent. In that bill in committee, myself and another representative put an amendment in there that allows for local schools and the ESCs to put a levy on the ballot or use levy funds that are meant for infrastructure improvements to the schools to also include public safety, mental health specialists, additional police officers, school resource officers. So each individual school can actually look at what is going to work for their school district best. But the other thing is that my office recently started looking in with our Legislative Service Commission and the Attorney General's office of what courts, clerk of courts, law enforcement agencies, and then our own state version of the FBI, the BCI, has been actually reporting to the National Background Service actual disqualifying factors, because we've seen in recent shootings that these things aren't getting reported to the NICS system.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rutherford. Mr. Jolivet.
I think the quick and kind of flippant answer is that let's just let Sheriff Jones take care of it. But we know that that's not possible. I support the Second Amendment, but I also support common sense gun reform. I have 9 grandchildren, and 4 of them go to elementary school, and the other 5 will be going fairly soon. I worry every day about what they may face, and it's more than just gun control. It's communication between students, the school officials, law enforcement, and we need to make sure that those things are strengthened and seamless, so a person who's bent on doing some violence can be found out before that violence happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Bond, 1 minute.
Yes, thanks. So first of all, targeted attacks have an underlying cause, and I think we need to address that head on. We're talking mental health, drug intervention, resources for social services. We must have that, because if we do that, we're going to attack the problem and not have to try to defend ourselves from it. I think that we do not need to create new laws. We don't need new legislation. We must enforce the laws we have. Nationwide background checks, it's a must. And I'm not just talking for guns, I'm talking for others, with criminals and so forth. We must have background checks. If we do, we have a directory, we look it up, and we can identify the individuals. Where do we get the money? I believe strongly, and I've dealt with students for, again, 30 years in situations where if there had been an intervention, they would never have ended up with a consequence, jail perhaps, incarceration long-term. If we intervene, we can prevent the number of prisoners in our prisons, and we will save money.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Carruthers, 1 minute.
Well, I've been meeting with Sheriff Jones and talking with him about public safety and school safety. And let me just say quickly that I am very grateful and thankful for Sheriff Jones' endorsement of this race for me. He's been a great resource and a wonderful educator to me. I look forward to working with him. We need to work on our local school safety, and I have also been meeting with people like Erica Scott. I don't know if you know Erica Scott, but I think we need to listen to our students on this. They know what's going on a lot better than we do. We need to work with our school boards and our students. Look, we're not going to, the laws do have to be enforced, absolutely. People are going to break the law. We're not going to get a perfectly safe society, but we need to enforce it. This gun owner quotes Benjamin Franklin, or paraphrases, "Anyone who would give up liberty for temporary safety neither deserves liberty or safety."
Thank you very much. Next question. Local data indicates that manufacturing and healthcare are two industries with the biggest potential for growth, the largest employment and career opportunities, and the highest living wage. What needs to be done to support those industries and help them achieve their potential for economic success and talent attraction? We will start with Mr. Jolivet. 1 minute.
When I was a state representative, I had the honor of being chairman of the Health Committee. And I'm sure when I win an election and go back to Columbus, I will push to be on the Health Committee, which benefits all the hospitals, the whole health network throughout the state. I look forward to that. Also, we're talking about committees, push to be on the Insurance Committee, which I think is one of the biggest industries in the county, with Great American Insurance and Liberty Mutual. So I will be asking to be on the Insurance Committee also. I think it's important because legislation comes through that benefits or hurts these industries, which in turn would help or hurt the employment in our area.
Great, thank you very much. Mrs. Vaughn, 1 minute.
Yes. So I haven't seen the data, so I won't necessarily contradict what you're saying about manufacturing and healthcare. I believe technology is also a very, very big growing field. But I believe that whatever the growing field is, we need skilled labor. We must have skilled labor. And it's going to go back to what I believe the strongest in, and that's in education, the base of everything. Our foundation is education and training. The opportunities in all of these fields, whether it's highly skilled healthcare or it's a technical job that may only need a high school diploma, I believe that we must train. And if we do that, we're going to have to train the trainers. So it's going to mean bringing skilled people in to do the training. So again, I don't necessarily disagree that manufacturing and healthcare are growing, but I believe there are other fields, and we can't limit it to just those two. We have to look at the greater community, and we serve a much greater community. Although I appreciate Hamilton and the growth here, I think we have to look outside.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carruthers, 1 minute.
Well, as many of you know, or I would think most of you that have gone to the hospital know, my family and my commitment to our community has been directed a great deal to the efforts toward health care and the hospitals, the local medical institutions. In fact, in 2015, I donated and helped build the new maternity area at Fort Hamilton Hospital. I know that health care is a growing industry, and it's huge. It provides good paying jobs, and it's why I'm proud to be a partner with the hospital here on such a vital asset to the community. As your state representative, I plan on working closely with our healthcare industry to ensure the state government is providing the tools necessary to properly support our area and to maintain growth and grow. I also, in fact, intend to make one of my first meetings in Columbus with the Ohio Manufacturers Association and the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. I don't think there's anything that makes me more proud than to see Made in America.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rutherford, 1 minute.
The data says that the healthcare industry and manufacturing is growing, but the city of Hamilton in this area shows it. We talked earlier about Tyson Krupp Bilstein and other manufacturers in the area that are growing and hiring. We look at the biosciences and the medical fields that are growing. I just was at a groundbreaking the other day for a new Kettering primary health care center on Main Street. That's why I've always been a proud supporter, and I've always fought to help get funds for Butler Tech. Their new bioscience medical center has been focused only on that, getting people out of high school, getting them prepared to fill these jobs in the healthcare and the biosciences center. Also fought for funding for their modernization of their manufacturing program, because they were using outdated materials and tools to teach people to fill these machining jobs that are great. And I mean, you can be a welder and make 70 grand a year and not have the debt you do when you come out of college. We need to promote that.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next question. The Cincinnati region is recognized as an ideal place to incubate entrepreneurial ideas and to create startup businesses. I mean, we have one here in Hamilton with the Hamilton Mills as a fantastic business incubator. What role does the 51st District play in that, and what would you do as a state representative to maximize opportunities for your district to benefit that movement and perception? We will start with Mrs. Vaughn.
Thank you. So there's no doubt that Ohio and our district should have funding for entrepreneurial ideas. Innovation is the creation of the future. So I think that's extremely important. I agree with you, Mr. Pittman, that the local community here has those opportunities with the Hamilton Mill, and we need to support that. But I think we need to assess what are the businesses that we're bringing in. So through assessment, determining we don't need a dozen coffee shops. There are different needs for the community. We don't in any way want to restrict the businesses that are coming in, but I think we have to assess the development because we want every new business to be successful. I believe that we have to support innovation, creativity. I believe we have a good start in this community, but we have to focus on that and again, think outside the box and provide the support for the innovation and creativity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carruthers.
Well, I believe the 51st District plays a critical role in developing new partnerships that attracts the entrepreneurial, I love that word too, attitude. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, Butler County Small Business Development Center is the best in the country. I don't think we promote that nearly enough. As your state representative, I believe in supporting the Hamilton Mill, our local SBDC, and attracting those individuals and startups that will create opportunities in our area to develop a strong, modern workforce with skilled employees.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Rutherford, 1 minute.
Thank you. And as everybody said up here, the mill, we're sitting in the building the mill sits in, and it's bolstered small business in the community. And it's good to hear that the other candidates up here support exactly what I've been doing for the past 5 years, which is supporting the mill through funding and capital budget improvement process. But also, recognition and support for the small business development community as well. But I think outside of that, the businesses that come here got to know that they have a stable governmental environment. That means that we're controlling spending, so that way they know that their taxes aren't going to be raised to fill another $8 billion budget hole as they were back in 2010. And that's something I've always fought for. This last year's budget was the first budget in 2 decades that actually kept the growth of spending under the rate of inflation. And that's something I'm very proud of.
Great, Mr. Jolivet.
Thank you. None of my opponents can relate to owning a small business. I've had that joy for 45 years, my family for 81 years. But there are also some headaches. Like today, for instance, it's been a really crappy winter or spring, but today was the first nice day, and we were busy. And then, Mr. Mayor, I hate to say this, but the power went out. That those, are things that small businessmen have to roll with. And I know what that is, I can relate to those who have a startup business and who want some advice, some mentoring, and to be pointing in the right direction. So that's what I'll do as a state representative, is to make sure that I use my knowledge as a small businessman to help new businesses when they come into town if they want help and advice and point them in the right direction.
Great, thank you very much. Moving on to the next question. Butler County has a lot of farming and agricultural in this county. So the business of farming and agricultural is a significant entity in our area, even beyond our area. Currently, there are potential embargoes, legislative discussions, and other issues that could have a detrimental impact on that industry. What issues are you looking to address to advocate to protect this category of business? We will start with Ms. Carruthers.
Well, there are a number of issues facing our farmers. I actually just became a member of the Farm Bureau and learned a great deal, and I'm still studying. Issues like water quality, property rights, energy costs, getting a new generation into farming. It's very important, of course. Improving beginning farm education, and of course, the drug epidemic. It's hurting because they can't get workers again. I support the farmers in pushing for free trade and opening up new markets to their products and preserving our trade agreements that give them access to overseas markets. I know that the American farmer is the best at what he does and producing food and feeding the world, and the most competitive. And at some point today, we all enjoyed the fruits of their labor. So that's why their issues are our issues.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Rutherford, 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm also a member of the Farm Bureau, have been for several years, and I sit on their policy committee. And I can tell you right now, the single biggest issue that farmers in this community and across the state faced was the changes to the CAUV, which is their property tax values. There were farmers in this community that saw an increase up to 250%. That makes it virtually impossible for some of them to be able to not only continue farming, but pass that farm on to their kin. I was proud to stand next to Chairman Brian Hill, who's also a farmer himself and chairs the Act Committee, to fight for the CAUV fixes that we made last year. Sometimes it was a lonely road because we were the only two standing up talking about it. But we kept pushing, we kept fighting, and we got some fixes made. And they're starting to see the relief now. I think there's more to come, and there's more relief needed to be had, but we have to continue to make sure that they're not taxed out of their farms.
Mr. Jolivet, 1 minute.
Thank you. Didn't think I'd say this, but I agree with you, Wes. The CAUV is by far the greatest challenge that we have with the farmers. In Butler County, in the last few years, we're decreasing the number of farms, and that is sad. It's, the pressure of the development versus the farm is going to continue as our county continues to grow and investments take place. But as Wes said, that the reforms of the CAUV took place last year, but they're going into effect this year. So I will pledge to work very closely with the Farm Bureau and to make sure that any changes that were made do not have any unexpected consequences, as I know that the paperwork and some of the things in order to qualify have changed and may become burdensome.
Great. Thank you very much. Mrs. Vaughn, 1 minute.
Thank you. So I graduated from Ross High School. I grew up in the farming communities. My father was not a farmer, but I certainly was in school with many of them. And Mr. Jolivet is right. The farms are disappearing for whatever reason. But I think the realization is right now that in the 51st District, our Ross Township area, the farming area, is really small. We are basically in the 51st District urban. So I care a lot about the farmers, and I would spend time, and I believe that we definitely need to support them in any way we can. However, I don't believe that in the state we control the federal embargoes. I do know that right now with the new tariff on the soybeans, up in northern Ohio, I spoke to someone who said right now the farmers are switching over from soybeans to corn because they aren't going to make the money on soybeans. That is the primary farming, the agriculture in our community here. So we have to support our farmers. We don't want the farms to disappear. We need the farms. Lastly.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. Thank you.
Now, moving on to question number 10 here. In your opinion, what is the single most important issue that will drive your platform as a candidate and your agenda as a state representative if elected? Mr. Rutherford, 1 minute.
Thank you. The single biggest issue that drives me both as a candidate and also as your state representative for the last 5.5 years is the fact that I'm an independent voice. I was born and raised here. I grew up here. I know what it's like to work paycheck to paycheck. I know what it's like to decide whether or not you're going to be able to pay your electric bill or buy groceries. And quite frankly, I got into this because I was tired of the insider politics, the insider trading, picking and choosing who was going to be the next elected official for whatever position, not just state rep, but across the board. And since I've been in Columbus, I've rubbed my party the wrong way quite a few times. And that's okay, because I've done it serving the people of this district. Whenever the party comes to me, whether it be local leadership or state leadership, and say, you need to vote this way, and my district says the other way, not only will I continue to vote for my district, but I have proven that I have voted for my district.
Mr. Jolivet, 1 minute.
Thank you. My platform is quite simple. I'm going to make sure that our common sense, conservative values are maintained and are successful in Columbus. Also, as a state representative who cares about how our community grows and make sure that that progress continues, is to fight tooth and nail to state bureaucracy and over-regulation and stupid regulations that impede businesses. My whole life has been about service, and I cherish that, and I hope to continue as your representative. Thank you.
Mrs. Vaughn.
Thank you. Ross, Hamilton, Fairfield deserve quality education. I will say it over and over and over again. The funding in this state is despicable. For 20 years, we've worked under an unconstitutional taxing policy. It must change. We deserve the same quality of education as the students that live in Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, Cleveland. It should be equal. And I have said throughout that I believe with a foundation of a good education, we will benefit in all aspects of manufacturing, economics. It's critical to our success. I think that this is not just K through 12. I'm talking skilled laborers that have to switch a job. They're 40 years old and they need training. We need education and funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Crothers, 1 minute.
I would agree that we need education, and it is a passion of mine and something that I would strive because it directly feeds into job creation and fulfillment. Making sure that our children are properly educated and our local schools have the resources and the flexibility that they need to ensure that academic excellence from pre-K to grade 12, and it's one of my top priorities. Actually, I do agree with you. I think we need to also strive for older education also. I grew up in Hamilton, Ohio. I'm a proud Hamiltonian. I attended Adams, Harding Junior High, and Taft. We didn't have all of the beautiful buildings that we have now. As a matter of fact, Harding's balcony was condemned while I was in school there, but we did learn something, and I learned something very valuable. I learned about the people of this area. I learned that they have a bigger heart than anyone else.
Thank you very much. Now, those are our prepared questions, but since I have the microphone, I want to throw one in, so it's the moderator's privilege, I guess. This election, we're seeing a tight race for governor. It's probably going to be Mike DeWine winning the Republican, and it's a tight race between Dennis Kucinich and Rich Cordray for the Democrats. And who knows who wins in November. How will you work across the aisle if you have the opposing party, and then Susan, this will be the opposite for you, obviously, but if the opposing party is in power in the governor's house, how will you work with that governor's administration to further an agenda for the 51st district? We will start with Mr. Jolivet.
Thank you. As long as they do what I want, it'll be fine. No. I've, growing up with local government in this chambers, I knew the value of compromise and working together for the betterment of the city, of the district, and also of the county. So I feel that communication and being upfront and honest when dealing with the governor or the other parties. And as chairman of the Health Committee, a lot of times the Democrats would introduce legislation, and I was always fair and open to making sure that their position was heard and they had a fair hearing. So my life has been always honest and always fair, and that will continue.
Great, thank you very much. Mrs. Vaughn?
Thank you. When elected, I will represent the 51st District no matter what. It's not a D or an R. My first experience with DNR was working at the polls when I was told you can't work at the polls and walk up to a polling table without a D and an R together. I think that's the way it ought to be. I mean, I think we are one together. And so as a representative, it doesn't matter what letter is next to your name. I believe we have to work together as one unit for this community. I wouldn't run for this if I only thought I had a small portion that's going to be there to work with me. I hope everyone in this room would support, no matter which party we're with.
Great, thank you very much. Ms. Carruthers, 1 minute.
Well, I feel that the reason that I'm doing this is to support our area, the 51st District. I don't have a problem dealing with anyone. I think pretty much you have to learn to compromise, and you have to learn to deal with other people and be able to discuss openly different topics. I think anybody but Kasich is just fine. Not a Democrat necessarily, because I think we don't need the taxes, and I think we've all dealt with that this week, haven't we? But I do feel that that's not an issue for me to deal across the aisle. I don't have a problem dealing. Susan and I have been friends for years. I don't have a problem dealing across the aisle.
Mr. Rutherford, 1 minute.
Thank you. You know, almost 40%, a little over 40% of the legislation I've introduced has been enacted either through standalone bills, amendments, rule changes, whatever it might be. And almost every single one of those pieces of legislation has had bipartisan support. In some cases, bipartisan joint sponsors. So I've always been willing to work with whoever it is, whatever letter they have behind their name, as long as it's for the benefit of this community. You look at the city council in Hamilton. That's a good mix of people. There's independents, there's Republicans, Democrats. I've worked with them since day one, and I'll continue to do so. And quite frankly, I think the way the governor has gone in the last couple of years, I'd be willing to say I'm about the only one who has experience with working with somebody that's across the aisle, because that's kind of the direction he's gone.
Great. Thank you very much. Now, we are a little after 7 o'clock. We said we would get to 7:15, so we want to start probably with our closing statements now. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a statement to end this forum. And continuing with our order, we will start with Ms. Vaughn.
Thank you. So as I've said throughout my comments tonight, I believe that the representative's job is to be a steward of the public's trust. And you put an investment in that person to make the choices, good choices for you. As I stated, and I believe is true, the district has problems and there are needs. And I need to work with the constituents to determine what those are and fight and do my best in Columbus. A friend said to me as state representative, your job is not to come to the table knowing all the answers. It will be my job to work with people who have many areas of expertise to find solutions to problems and needs of the people of Ohio and the people of our district. Over the course of my career, I served as an alcohol and substance abuse educator, an adjunct faculty member, and for the past 22 years, Director of Ethics and Conflict Resolution at Miami. I've also served on a number of boards through the university, committees at the university, and I have worked with other groups within the Oxford, Ross, Fairfield districts. Thank you for your time and the opportunity tonight to share my insights. I know it's a little lopsided here, who's who. I am running in this primary. Although I don't have an opponent, it's important that people know who I am and what I stand for. My name's on the ballot. I hope I have votes. I believe that Hamilton, Fairfield, Ross have unique qualities and challenges. I've lived my entire life here, and I have decades of growth. I've seen decades of growth and decades of decline. I believe we're now experiencing that growth, and I'm excited to be a part of that. My father retired from Fisher Body after 32 years, and that was an exciting time. My brother was there when it closed. My father-in-law, Archie Vaughn, self-made. He was an auctioneer, a realtor, a man who worked extremely hard. My daughter is a teacher. My husband and I together have 30 years each in education. I bring ethics, integrity, authenticity, and a belief in all of you that we're all here for the same reason.
Thank you very
Thank you so
much.
much.
Mrs. Carruthers, 2 minutes.
Thank you again for this forum. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to the Journal, and thank you to TV Hamilton. I've spent my whole life serving our community, and there are no limits to what we can accomplish if the government gets out of the way and if they help us. For too long, our community's been held back by the swamp in Columbus. I'm not a career politician. I'm a mother. I'm a mom of twins, 11-year-old twins. And if I did not have the wheels in place to have them be taken care of while I am working, I wouldn't be doing this. This is my first run for public office, but I will bring a lifetime of experience to serving others at the State House. The values I will champion in Columbus are the same conservative Republican principles that have guided my entire life. As a mother of 2 wonderful children, I'm the only candidate to be endorsed by Ohio Right to Life, and I will champion the rights of the unborn. I will stand firm in protecting our Second Amendment rights, and I will strive to lower taxes and cut job-killing red tape so that businesses can thrive. Above all, I will be an effective representative who serves all the people because you're my boss, with dignity and decorum. Let's bring it back to the office, shall we, folks? I can promise you I will fight for you every day I'm there, and I will never embarrass you. I would be honored to have your support and your vote on May 8th and in November.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Rutherford, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Lifelong resident of Hamilton, Marine Corps veteran, son, husband, father, 2 wonderful kids. Chance 9, heck of a ball player. Got to work on a swing a little bit. Daughter 11, 12 now, Caitlin, great on the piano. They go to school here. They go to school in Hamilton. I love this community. My family is raised here. I'm a 4th generation Hamiltonian. And I would never turn it in for anything else. I love this place. That's why whenever I graduated high school, I took the commitment to sign up for the United States Marine Corps. That was right after 9/11. So people that were signing up then knew that chances are they were probably going to go someplace that they didn't want to be. I was proud to serve, and I'm proud to continue to serve. The fact is, whenever you look at your candidates, do you want someone that actually stands by what they say? Someone who has the experience and the record that says they are the conservative candidate. A rating from the NRA, A rating for the Buckeye Firearms Association, 100% pro-life record. It's not platitudes, people. It's not talking points to sound good or try to pretend to be something you're not. My record speaks for itself. I am the only conservative candidate in this race. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Jolivet, 2 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you again to the Chamber and to the Journal and TV Hamilton and all of you for coming tonight. I'd like to have your vote, and I'm asking right now. The next 2 years are very important for the state representative and for our community. We have a lot of things that we need to accomplish in a short time. And I think it's important that we hire somebody that is going to be an effect on the first day. As I mentioned in my opening, Wes has had some problems, and he's got that label of not being effective. And he has 2 years left on a term limit. So I feel that his influence has waned, and we need to go in another direction. I look at Sarah. I like Sarah, and everybody in Hamilton should be grateful to their generosity to the city of Hamilton. But I don't feel that she's qualified to do the job. She doesn't have the experience. And I think the learning curve is going to be steep. So the next 2 years, have one that's not have the influence anymore, or one who needs to learn the job, or myself, who's been in the job, who's done the job. who's had brought good results back. The amendment that I passed for the city schools was $53 million, which allowed the city to build the elementary schools. If not, we'd have had to gone to another bond issue. My work as a chairman of the Health Committee, organ donor legislation, Save Our Sight Fund, Golden Buckeye discount card. I had the highest compliment that I've received in my service from a lady who posted on Facebook, "Vote for Greg because he's one of us."
Thank you very much,
And
Mr.
I always
Jolivet.
will be. Thank you.
All right. Want to say thank you to our candidates here, Sarah Carruthers, Wes Rutherford, Greg Jolivet, and Susan Vaughn. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, TV Hamilton, to present this opportunity for voters to learn more about these candidates. As a member of the Journal News, it's always important to present these civic opportunities, these voter education opportunities to the public. It is our duty to do so. That's why I am dedicated to politics for the Journal News, and that's why I report on these events as well as these races. Again, early voting is open now. You can vote by mail. You can go to the Board of Elections. Also, Election Day is May 8th. Voting on Election Day is from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Again, thank you very much. You can learn more about these candidates and other candidates in all the races at the Journal News website, journal-news.com/voter guide. Thank you very much. Have a good night.